Ellie,
Yes.
what's your favourite scary movie?
Well, I'd have to say it's the 1996 cinematic classic Scream, Molly.
Wow, that's really crazy you say that. Did you know that they've made a 6th one?
No.
Yeah, and did you know we're going to go see it right now?
Right now.
Right now. This is the Good Movie Podcast, and we're going to go watch Scream 6.
I'm so excited. I'm
Crazy.
so excited. Like, the second they announced it, I was like, oh my God, like, it's...
You've been waiting a while.
I have. I can't wait. I'm so excited. I'm nervous.
I'm really pleased for you.
Thanks.
You're giving
It's a
me
big
the
moment.
excitement. I'm excited, but I'm getting more excitement from you, which is fun.
It's a good time. I'm very, very excited to see what happens. So we are going to go see it right now. We're just recording this, and then we're going to head off, and we're going to come back and let you know what we think.
Do you have any theories of who Ghostface is going to be? Because that's the big...
It's the big question.
Yeah.
I don't have anyone that I'm like hell-bent on it being, because I feel like with Scream 5, the whole time you had your suspicions about Jack Quaid's Richie, was it Richie?
Yes.
The boyfriend. But even though I went into the film thinking it was him, the whole film I was like, nah, it's not him. It's not him. And it was him. So it's like, it doesn't really matter what I think, I still end up getting thrown off. I'm very much like, as soon as there's a red herring, I'm like, oh, I believe you. That's fine. That's fine. I trust
so
you,
true.
good sir. That's why the first Scream was so good to me. Because they're literally like, Billy's the killer. And you're like, no, he isn't. That'd be silly.
Oh my God, he is.
And then he is the killer. And you're like, oh, okay. You told me that. But it's fine.
You're the peak audience member then, really.
Absolute peak.
You're
Wes Craven made it for me. They just made it, the font was really small and the dedicated to at the end.
Too early.
No, but to answer your question, part of me has my suspicions about Sam, but I don't think it's her.
Okay.
Because I think that would be too... This is pointless. I'm not answering your question. No. It could be fucking anybody. And my only issue... my only thing that I'm nervous about is it being two of the brand new characters and then having no time to get attached to them whatsoever. So then when it's them, you're kind of like, oh, well, I've just met you.
That's a good point.
But I would love to see it be Sam and that just be like a cool twist. Haven't answered your question. I'm not sure. I'm undecided.
That's a good way going into it, though.
Yeah.
I also feel like, in terms of Scream 6, I'll watch these forever, but what kind... Do you mean, if,
yes.
like you're saying, if they're doing a new character, is Ghostface again?
Yeah.
They've got to keep that interesting.
Exactly.
Rather than going, I think it's going to be Samara Weaving.
I don't know what to expect, but who do you think is going to be Ghostface?
Matthew Lillard.
I don't know if I think he's in it, but... So... Give it like let's travel back in time to about 2 months ago when I was deep in the trenches of Neve Campbell is lying and she's in it and this is all a ploy and kind of a questionable ploy, but it's all a ploy and she's back and she's going to team up with Stu and she's back and that's it. And I was like tin hat levels of like they're in it and then the trailer came out obviously more than 2 months ago, but like the trailer came out and it was like, you've never met one like me, Gale. And I was like, oh my God, because it's Sydney. Because it's her. But now, I'm not so silly about it now. But I would love to see Matthew Lillard come back. I feel like you made a point and then I just spoke entirely over it. But I'm sorry.
You did exactly what I wanted. I led you into it intentionally. Because I was like, you didn't say that you thought Stu was in it. I wanted you to say it. I'm glad you did.
I don't think he's in it.
I think, yeah, I won't be disappointed if he's not in it. Of course not. I think it's going to be great. Although we've heard great things, just very vague reviews.
Yeah.
So I'm expecting wonderful things. I have one last question for you. Considering that Courtney Cox is going to be kind of, I suppose, the last remaining member.
Yeah.
Because Sydney's not in it. And Dewey. Rip Dewey.
Rip.
Rip. Do you think she's going to make it out of this one?
Okay. This is half cheating the answer because I've seen a couple of reviews, obviously with no spoilers, but a couple of reviews have praised like the core four, right? So Sam, Tara, Mindy and... can't remember, but the two twins. So they're the core four. Because I've seen so much praise for the four of them, part of me is like, is that because we're killing Courtney Cox and they're going to now proceed on, which is great, absolutely great, but I will miss Courtney Cox so dearly if she dies in this one. But I would like to say, and I don't want to, I will probably be eating my hat in 2 hours time, but I would like to say that if she does die, it won't be in the scene from the trailer, because she looks like she puts up a pretty damn good fight.
In the apartment?
Yeah, and then she like smacks him with the pan. I'd like to see her make it out of that, because that kind of feels like a little callback to her chase scene in Scream 2 or 3. 2? 3?
With the
2.
fringe. With the bad
I don't think she has the fringe in that one, no.
Okay, maybe.
But I'm pretty sure it's Scream 2 because she's in the school.
I think this is where I'm not sure about it because I don't want her to die full stop. I feel like they maybe could.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. I want her to have a really good fight and come out on top.
Yeah.
But then then it worries me how then she could die other than that if it's not from a good fight. Like if they come up behind her and stab her. And I'm like, no, I don't want to do that.
Also, if you're going to say he's the most brutal Ghostface, I think unfortunately, he probably has to kill some high profile character. And like you said, she is unfortunately, the only one left. I don't know.
It makes me more nervous. That's the thing I'm nervous about. I'm not really nervous about it, but I am. Okay.
It's fine. Join the club.
All right. We've said our bits.
I've said my piece. If Matthew Lillard's not in it,
I like your opinion.
This will not end this podcast. This is it.
We're going to go watch Scream 6 now.
Let's go. I'm so excited. Okay.
See you then. Oh, and we're back. Obviously, from this moment on, there's going to be spoilers.
Lots of spoilers.
Lots of spoilers. So go watch the movie. Obviously, we had a great time. Highly recommend it.
Spoilers for the rest of the podcast. We liked it.
Yeah,
it was a good film. Otherwise, we don't want to spoil everything for you. We will be talking about everything. So
we'll go straight in. Just initial thoughts.
What did you think?
Oh, I loved it. I had a really good time. I was tense the whole way through.
Yep.
You saw me. I had a couple of moments where I was like, oh, like holding my neck. I was like, oh. I like slid down my seat. I was really getting into it.
I put your hand on my chest at one point because I was like, feel how fast my heart is beating.
I didn't know that's what you...
I did think because you didn't react afterwards, and I was like, oh, it was after the Courtney Cox chase, and I just was like, my heart was in my mouth, but it was great. That was great. I had high expectations going in, and it was still better than I thought. I really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it.
I think we said in the intro we'd heard really good things.
Yeah,
and
it lives up to it.
Everyone was right.
Trust
the internet.
Sometimes.
Do you have any stand-up moments, any highlights that you want to start off with? Kick us off with some of your favourite moments.
This is so basic. It's so basic. But it was Courtney Cox's chase scene.
Yeah.
Because it was so good. It was so tense. Like I just said, I literally had your hand on my chest, being like, feel my pulse. It was everything I could have wanted. Her poor boyfriend was just very strange, but I guess, it made sense. But that whole sequence was fantastic. She fought back exactly like you'd have thought Gale Weathers would fight back. And I loved when she made the phone call and then quick draw shot him through the door. Very confused because it sounded like someone actually got shot. I don't know if you could hear, there was a little bit of a grumble.
Yeah, like a bit of a yelp noise.
But then it was never actually addressed I don't think it was addressed unless there was a throwaway line. But I don't know, for half a second I was like, oh my god, she's actually got Ghostface. But then they wear bulletproof vests or whatever, it could have been any of that. But
that's a good point. I really in that scene, I thought her going, can I put you on hold? Him going, what?
Yes.
Oh, really nice.
Yeah,
it was really cool.
A cool way of twisting the scene, which I thought was awesome.
I thought the train bit was brilliant. The subway bit.
We're picking all trailer scenes.
Well, because this is what I wanted to say though. I remember watching the trailer and the bit when Ghostface appears in her face. I remember watching the trailer being like, so weird, because how is Ghostface that close to her and the group haven't realised? Obviously because they're on different carriages. But I just remember as they got separated, I was like, oh, and I really was getting into it. And I thought that whole bit was really tense of the lighting going out and them all spotting different ones, like Sam making full eye contact and then Danny kind of being like, and then he got off the train.
And he stepped right in front of her. It was very sweet.
I was so paranoid, not to get into the Ghostface stuff, but I was really paranoid that he was going to be Ghostface.
I know.
So I was like, no, I really like him. He's really good.
I was thinking hopefully it isn't because it would be the boyfriend again. So I was fairly confident, but I was the same as you. I was like, please let him be nice. He's so nice.
I've been fooled before.
Another thing about the train scene, just as a little thing that I noticed and really liked, was it makes sense in hindsight, but the continuity of the whole scene was great. Every time the camera went back, everyone was exactly where they had been when the camera first was there.
Yeah.
Or you know what I mean? Each shot change, everyone was in the exact same position, which makes sense because I imagine filling a train carriage with extras is pretty, like, no one can really move anyway. But I just liked that there weren't all these chop change, like, movements from people. A quick thing I do want to mention is, so the 2 directors of this are the directors of Ready or Not. I don't know if you knew that.
I didn't know that. That's really cool.
And so obviously they know Samara Weaving can scream. And they let her scream, baby.
She was good.
She screamed proper. It was great.
I also thought Annika had a very good scream.
Yeah.
When they like so and then pulled the knife up, I was like, she was good. Like when she was crying in, I was like, she was brilliant.
She was underused as well. I get, don't get me wrong, I get, you know, it's all justified when they get killed and stuff. Not justified. It all makes sense. The timing of the kills is what I mean. But I wish we had got a little bit more of her because she was fun. I felt every kind of moment she was on, I was like, she's nice. Yeah. I'd hang out with her. I think she's a really lovely gal. A really lovely gal.
Got very sad when she was off. Bless her.
Jenna Ortega's drunk acting, phenomenal. How do you do that with your voice?
She's brilliant.
She had the slurry, like, drunk voice down, and I was, like, mesmerised. I just feel like sometimes you watch drunk scenes and people just sway, and, like, that's it.
I really like the relationship of the core 4.
Yeah,
I think when they like sit around at the dinner table, they felt just like a very genuine group. I also just loved Chad and Mindy. I think we probably said from the 5th one, they're such a nice sibling relationship. Yeah. Also Sam and Tara.
But Chad and Mindy are like lighter hearted, like more fun.
But I just think sometimes when you get sibling relationships, it's either that they kind of are annoyed at each other.
Yeah.
Or they just kind of say they're siblings and it's chucked away.
Yeah.
They love each other so much.
Yeah.
And they're always kind of like hugging, or when they're like, I don't want to lose you. I don't want you to. I'm like, they just say it enough times. I'm like, and I believe they're siblings, or I believe they're really good friends at least. But I get it. And I like that they show that, and they still showed that. Mm-hmm. That was, like, really nice to watch.
That's a really good point, actually. I didn't think about that. But they don't even really, like, bicker. I can't remember so well about number 5, whether they bicker, like, maybe a little bit in that. But they didn't bicker in this, at all. They just love each other.
Yeah. That's the thing. It's, like, it's the bicker in, like, a bantery way.
Yeah, of course,
They then really love each other.
Yeah,
so it's very quick, like, oh, no, we're fine now.
Yeah,
like,
they're great.
Right, yeah.
They were great. And they're actually so believable as twins. I don't know, there's just something about their mannerisms and everything that I'm like, they're very similar. Acting, baby.
The chemistry reads were off the charts, I bet, when they got that.
So good.
And then another bit, I liked that Billy was in it again, because I don't remember what the general opinion was of her having hallucinations of her dad in the beginning one. I liked it. I thought it was kind of fun, but I don't know if it was a popular thing. But I liked that they carried it on again, because I think they very easily could have just kind of, like they said at the beginning, like, oh, I'm not really seeing them again.
Yep.
I don't know, that's kind of like a minor thing. Yeah. I just liked that they brought him back. We made this choice that she's having hallucinations, and we're sticking by the choice that she is seeing him.
Sure.
Because sometimes I feel like films can just kind of go,
we used it for this movie, we're just going to fob it off now. Yeah.
Exactly.
And it's always good to see Skeet.
I love him. I'm so pleased.
Always a bit of a jump scare, but it's good to see him. Would have preferred to see Stu, but we'll get to that. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I always feel so silly saying Stu. Because it's like... Yeah, but like in an American accent, it makes sense. Yeah. In any other accent, it makes sense. But to me, I just sound like I'm making a crock pot meal.
I'm making a stew.
I'm making a stew.
Or stew.
A stew.
Both.
I'm now trying to think how I would say it. We briefly discussed this, but the opening scene with Samara Weaving, the phone rings and it's a normal voice. However, we both knew it was Tony Revolori straight away, and both were very concerned that was the reveal. But, like, they just assumed that you didn't know his voice and were doing a twist on, like, he's not going to use I was about to say defibrillator. What's the word? I can't remember the word they use. Yeah, the voice changer. And I was like, there's no way they're just going to now have Tony Revolori in the film and just hope that you don't link the two. Obviously, they didn't. I should have known better. But for, like, a split second, I was like, no.
I felt really confident, because there were moments, I think in number 5, there was a brief moment where I was like, that kind of rough noise or something sounded kind of like Jack Quaid. Whether or not it did or not, I don't remember. But I then thought it. So he started talking and I was like, I've cracked it. This is it, baby. I've cracked it because I'm so good at this. It's Tony. And then
it was Tony, but it wasn't Tony.
As soon as because he even took the mask off, and I was like, oh my god, twist, we're going to know who one of the killers is. Like, this is It wasn't literally until his phone rang and then the voice side, I was like, oh, of course.
But that's what they're leading you into. Like, I think a lot of people at that point would have been thinking, wow, we're going to go the whole movie knowing one of them and we're not going to know the other one. I mean, maybe, I don't know, maybe we're just a little bit... Maybe we're not up on the vibes, but...
I didn't think he'd die. I wondered if maybe he would be in it, and then there'd also be 2 other Ghostfaces. So he is not the predominant Ghostface, but I didn't think he'd have like the opening kill scene as well.
Yeah, I kind of thought he was gonna almost be like a naff copycat and then get. I didn't think he was gonna be killed in the opening scene, but as it was progressing, I was like, maybe he's gonna be. Which is what happened, I guess. I didn't think about it that way before I just started saying it. He was killed because he was like the naff copycat, and then the actual killer of the film took over. So that was kind of the vibe I was getting, because I was like, it was a very confusing time, but I loved how it all came together.
Yeah.
It wasn't confusing in that sense, but if you're trying to, crack it, I was like, what is going on? I love it, but what is going on? And it was a cool way to put a twist on the opening scene.
Kind of like 4, where they keep making you think. That was 4, wasn't it? Where it's like...
Oh my god, I thought you meant Thor.
Sorry,
no, you didn't say anything wrong.
4.
I was like, Thor?
Where they have the 2 characters and then it's the movie they're watching. And then they have this. So like, you get multiple first kills. And so I was like, that was really fun. And a fun way to do that. I liked him though. I thought he was really fun. He had a very fun vibe.
I know. Shame to see him and Samara Weaving go so quickly.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? It's like you have to get the iconic people and the good people having, because it's such an iconic scene. You've got to go for it.
And she was the perfect person to do the iconic scene. Have never heard her Australian accent. Was completely... I knew she was Australian, but it still threw me through a loop. I was like, whoa.
She started talking and I was like, oh!
She's a little Aussie.
She's so cute.
She's so cute. Have you got any more moments that you want to bring up?
Nothing specific. Again, I just think there were no dull moments, no low moments, big tension, not fight scenes, chase scenes or something. And then it was them all together, but it never really dropped, because it was either you're like, oh my god, what's happening? Or you're like, oh, I love them. Oh, very moving. There was constantly quite a high emotion.
Different emotions.
But yeah, there was never a moment where I was thinking about anything else.
No.
Which it kept me very...
Engaged,
thank you, the whole time.
I'm filling in your blanks for you.
Thank you.
No, I agree. There were 2 points where I was just hands cradling myself, and I think you probably heard me just I love this film. It's so good. I was just having the best time. It was exactly like you said. It was the pacing of it, I thought was really nice. I didn't feel at any point okay, let's move it along now. The one thing I will say is I saw a lot of people call it the scariest one yet, which I don't know that I would agree with, but I would half agree, because to me it was the most tense, and it was the most, again, like we said, heart pounding. So I think if that's the kind of thing that scares you, for sure, which I'm absolutely, it was what's the word, sensory overload in that sense, because I was just sweating, the tense and the stress of it. So yeah, I half agree. I wasn't shaking in my boots terrified, but it was a full-on emotional response of damn, this is
it's getting to
it was
me.
It was a lot.
Wondering that, because when it said 18 at the beginning, I did wonder if other ones had been 18s, but also
it's all slashers, of course.
No, I know, but I wasn't sure. I can't remember if the first one is as gory, so I don't know if it's an 18. But also, whenever I watch an 18, I'm still stuck in the phase of I shouldn't be watching this, and then I'm I'm absolutely old enough to watch these movies.
You're 5 years old.
I'm way older than 18, but I still am
oh my god, what if they see me in here?
Catch me out.
They'll ID me and I'll be allowed.
That's the true fear.
Well, I'm so old because I don't feel like that. I'm no, I belong.
I have one final moment that I've just remembered.
Go for
and
it.
It's just any time Jasmine Savoy Brown was on screen.
Totally valid.
Her fun little monologue, I suppose it would be, in the 5th one, when she's standing up, kind of giving them the down low.
Yeah.
Good, she had another one.
Yeah.
Because that was such a good scene, and she's so good, but also any single line she had when she keeps saying to Ethan, get away from me, Ghostface.
Yeah.
I'm you're so fun. And then she just said little bits. I was none of it was ever too cheesy. She was brilliant in it.
Yeah, I can agree with that, because I think when we saw 5, there were a couple of the first few jokes of hers I loved, but then I was I remember being a little bit hesitant, because it was clear that she was the Randy character, because their uncle is Randy, and I just remember thinking, oh, please do this right, don't, because you can, with any comedy, what's the word, comedic relief character, you can so quickly make them too much or annoying, or they don't hit the right marks, and she's just fantastic. She's so good. And she was great in 5 and she was so good. She was better in this one, I thought. I thought she was...
I think she almost had more moments in this one as well, I'd say.
Not even better. I don't like the word better because that, like, is implying that she wasn't great before. But you know what I mean? Like, even more so in this one, I was just like, oh, I just love her. She's great. Was very scared when she was stabbed.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I can see why they would kill her because it's going to bring on a proper holy shit, because I kind of just assumed she was safe. But then I was quite glad that they kept her around. Oh,
yeah, definitely.
But then that was also a good bit because it threw you off the Ghostface scent. Because I was like, oh, well, confirmed. And even, you know, she said it as well. Mindy said, I was wrong. And I was like, you were wrong. And I was wrong. I didn't suspect him, but I was wrong too. We were all wrong.
Well, we'll get in. That's a
perfect segue.
What a beautiful segue. Not going into it, when you were watching it, what kind of, did you have any moments you were like, I know who the killer is? Or did you guess fully? What were your kind of speculations as you were watching?
So with all of them, I feel like which is obviously the intention, you just are jumping between everyone.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it's them. So I definitely thought it was going to be a whole Sam arc of her, you know, committing all the murders and it actually being her for 5 minutes at the beginning. Well, because, you know, the therapy session...
They led you into it.
There were little bits where, as she walked past where... Jason, that was it. Where he'd been killed, she kind of almost gave that, like, a little bit of, like, a look. And I was like, is that because she's just been there? Like, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. So I was kind of going back and forth. I wasn't committed to that theory, but that's what I'm trying to illustrate. Like, as it was moving through the film, I just was like, oh, it's them.
Yeah.
And then, like, we got introduced to Josh Segara, Danny, it's him. Like, he's got a vibe. And you know what? That would make sense because he's got the vibe to be the killer, blah, blah, blah. And then I was like, no. So there was no one specifically that I was like, I think it is them. I definitely didn't think it was Ethan, because I just feel like, I don't know, maybe for some people it would have been predictable. I always think that when I was so off of the idea, I can see how someone would then be so on the idea. If you're thinking in a different way to me, then you might have found that quite obvious. But to me, I felt like the way they were addressing him, I was pretty confident it wasn't him. I was fully convinced Quinn was dead, did not have any suspicions whatsoever. So in terms of who I was actually on the scent of, it was literally nobody. I was useless in any kind of sleuthing scenario there. But the one thing I was confident in was it was not Kirby.
Really?
I knew it was never ever going to be Kirby. I didn't have a doubt for a second because I feel like they're going to want to keep using her.
I think, like, it was never kind of a big, like, oh my God, it's them.
Yeah.
It was almost like a natural response of like, oh, and maybe it's them.
Exactly.
And then it wasn't like oh, it's not them, it's them. It's like and maybe it's very casual.
You just go through the motions of like, it might be. But I will say with 5, the ensemble were a lot more suspicious.
Yeah.
At that point, I was a lot more engaged in picking who it was going to be. Theorising who it was going to be, because you didn't really know them. When now you have the core 4, that was kind of one of the things that I noticed with it was then, so because you had the core 4, you then only had 3 friends to suspect, because I didn't for a second think it was going to be Mindy or Chad, which maybe was, you know, in future, that might be an unsafe bet to assume it's not going to be them, but it obviously wasn't them this time. And so just because it was the 3 of them, I don't know, maybe that was obvious. I think I was so in my head that it was going to be someone external.
Yeah.
If I'm honest, I don't know, like, and whether, like, we were joking before about it being Stu and stuff like that, like, and then I was like, is it going to be somebody that we've not really seen, or like somebody that we've forgotten about, or like whatever. And so I really just I was just enjoying it.
I wanted to say this, and this is the thing, I think with certain other ones, I think where you're saying number 5, they were all quite suspicious. With this one, it felt very much, and this wasn't like a conscious thought at the time, it felt very much just like it's a slightly different movie, because I think Melissa Barrera, Sam, was such like, I thought she was brilliant, and I thought she led it so brilliantly. I think the character was great and she was brilliant, both worked really well. I was just watching her deal with things. I loved that. That was the whole thing. But I think as well, like, with the 5th one, I didn't fully have an amazing opinion on any kind of character because it felt just very like all ensemble.
Yeah.
This one was her, and I really liked that because I think with the 5th one, you were kind of watching them all, and then Sydney came in, and then they all kind of not fell back on Sydney in a way, but because she's the one you know and she knows what she's doing. Whereas now they didn't have that, so Melissa Barrera had to just come forward and do it all, and 100%. She did. So I was like, I wasn't almost concerned in a way with the reveal. I had moments of thinking. I did think when they had the whole apartment bit, I can't remember when Ethan comes back, but I did have a moment of being like, was he at the apartment beforehand?
Yeah.
and then he disappeared. I don't think he did do that. But then I had a moment of being like, is it him?
Maybe it
and then
was
kind
him.
of just forgot.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean. Like, I then kind of didn't think about it because I was just having a good time watching Melissa Barrera doing this and surviving.
Yeah.
And I really liked that.
I agree.
I loved Sam. I thought she was so good.
This wasn't Ghostface movie. This was Melissa Barrera's movie.
It really was. And I could not be more pleased. I just think she was so cool. Like, and that's what I mean, all the relationships, like her and Tara, you just got so much of them. You did get that in 5.
Yeah.
I just felt it a lot more and I was way more invested in them in this one.
I was rooting for them a lot more. I didn't want them to lose in the first one, but it was kind of like, yeah, like it's fine. Like, you're being not being made to, but she's the heroine. So I'm rooting for her naturally.
Yeah.
Whereas this film, I was just like, let's just let the girl succeed.
Yeah. I genuinely am like, come on.
Yeah.
I believe in you. Like, they were in trouble and I was like, oh my God, like way more. But in the 5th one, I was like, who's the killer? This one, I was like, I hope she lives.
Yeah.
I also want to say, I thought Sam going absolutely ham killing them all was great. She really let loose and I thought that was really fun that she just stabbed them so much. I was like, good for her.
She's such like a grey area character because you're like, what you're doing is terrible. Like, you're clearly enjoying it. But do I feel bad that you're enjoying it? Not really. You've kind of had a lot of bad things happen to you.
I'm like, these 3 guys have murdered people.
Yeah. It is that thing of you're like, well,
she's fine though because she had her moment and then she dropped the mask.
Exactly.
I thought she was going to keep the mask. And I thought that was going to be it.
Tucking it in her jacket.
I didn't realise. And obviously, that's the whole thing. Then they panned to it. But she's over it now. She had her little spree. And then she was like, all right.
Yeah, but she also did it with Richie. So it means it can come back. It doesn't mean it's done and she's never going to do it again.
She's now kind of... I feel as though that she's accepted. She hadn't she'd only just found out in the 5th one.
You're so right.
She found out and was like, oh my God. And then they're like, da-da-da-da-da. She's now had enough time to process and then gone... Because she says, I'm not like my dad. She says, like, because he was killing for no reason. She's got a reason that she's defending people.
That's very true.
I love her.
I support women's rights and wrongs.
Women's stories matter.
They just matter. So let's talk about the Ghostface reveal. I know we briefly just touched on it. How did you feel when it all came down? So Detective Bailey, the 2 Ghostface came in and you were like, damn.
I got very excited seeing the 2 Ghostfaces together.
Yeah.
When they were stabbing Chad. I really liked Dermot Mulroney.
Yeah.
I thought he was really cool. And then I liked the 2 coming behind him. I kind of didn't really have a reaction to the reveal. No. I wasn't almost too fussed, but not in a negative way. Like, where I'm saying, like, I was having a good time watching the movie, it kind of didn't really touch me, in a way. Okay. Like, it didn't faze me who it was. I was just excited for the movie to keep having the fights and everything. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
I wasn't like, oh my God, it's them. Because I think I wasn't thinking like that for the whole movie. Yeah. So I'm neutral, I suppose, in a way.
Yeah, that's fair. And I think when you're not necessarily hell-bent on it being someone, it's a little bit more, you just kind of welcome it with open arms of like, oh, okay, cool. And so I was shocked. I will say that as soon as Dermot Mulroney was standing there and he had the Ghostface to his left who was like tiny next to him, I was like, that is Quinn. Like, I knew, even though she'd been killed, I didn't suspect her for a second up to that point. But I was like, well, they're with him and she's tiny. And I'm going to say that's his daughter. Yeah. And he's been involved in her murder, as the police. So there's ways that he could cover it. And then that is what he said. Did not suspect the other one, like the brother being the brother or the son, did not think he was even directly involved until he literally took his mask off. And I was like, okay.
Did you, before they said about being related to Richie, did you have any kind of connection to that?
No, but I was, obviously, when she got the first phone call and it was from Richie's phone, I was kind of like, oh, because she said it wasn't even like, it wasn't that it was just like the contact, like she was like, that is Richie's phone. I was like, well, it's going to be someone who then has it, but then obviously they got to the shrine, and I was like, oh, this Ghostface has everything anyway. So then that kind of threw that idea of, oh, it has to be somebody who has Richie's phone out of my head. But then in horror films, they get things like that anyway. They get old people's phones and XYZ, and you just kind of let it go. But no, I did not see that coming at all. And I did not see weirdly young Jack Quaid on the screen coming either. No idea how they got that, whether it was a real video or whether it was a de-aged thing.
I guess it's almost kind of bad quality in lighting, so they could have just edited that.
It was probably just him.
But it did also look like you said, like, did he used to post YouTube videos and they've just well edited that to look like...
The setup of the clip and everything was like peak Dylan O'Brien in his YouTube era. Like, it looked like that. And I was like, oh, maybe Jack Quaid actually posted YouTube videos and they've just used a little clip out of context that could sound like he was talking about the Stab movies and stuff.
Yeah, because he was like, oh, I didn't do a holiday special.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, that could be from anywhere.
Yeah, he might have actually been, like, joking about. But no, so I did not... I liked it coming together and being Richie's family. And I said this to you at the time, but Ethan looked exactly like Jack Quaid.
Yeah.
I don't know why I didn't think anything of it. But as soon as he took off his mask, and no, not when he took off his mask. As soon as they said he was Richie's brother, I was like, oh, damn it, yeah.
He looks like him.
Of course he does. He looks exactly like him, but I just did not think anything of it until that exact moment.
I think that reveal as well, it came together nicely with things like they have for the phone, because it's his son's phone.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, like little things that, like I wasn't questioning in the first place, because like you're saying, like, if they'd have said he hacked it, even if they didn't touch on it, I didn't question it in the slightest.
You're just like, oh, it's fine.
But then they say it and I'm like, that's such a good addition that
Yeah.
of course they can call from his phone.
Yeah.
Or like if they said a couple of other things, and in the moment I've thought of them, I can't remember them now.
Well, like filling the shrine, they'd have needed like they'd have needed a policeman's help, whether they paid them or whether they, so that was a connection there and stuff like that. I did like how it all came together. I was more than satisfied with it. I definitely preferred the first 2/3 to the final third, but not in a bad way. I kind of felt that with 5 as well. And again, that's not a critique on the final third or anything. There's just something about the lead up to the reveal that I love so much. And it's the same in 1, and I think 1 is flawless the entire way through. But I just love the actual body of the film. And then the reveal is just like the icing on the cake. And I'm like, cool, love it. But this was awesome. And I liked it. I thought it was good. And Dermot Mulroney, I briefly mentioned this to you, is twisted because he did an interview where he said that he enjoyed getting to play a cop because he felt like it was honouring David Arquette's role, because he was obviously sheriff of Woodsboro. And that's just twisted. Because you weren't just a cop, were you? You were something else that killed Dewey. Not the one that killed Dewey, but the thing that, yeah.
You were okay with him killing Dewey.
He threw me right off of his scent, Dermot Mulroney. He was a great addition, and I really liked him. We should touch on really quickly Gale. Very brief, very quick. Let me know what you thought.
I loved her so much. I forgot one of my original points was going to be that because we said that we didn't want her to die in it. I forgot that they said she lived, so I was like, I thought it was a really good send off, and then I was like, oh no, she lived, it's fine.
She's fine, you'll see her again.
I have a question for you.
Go on.
It's a big one to think about.
Oh.
Out of all of the Ghostfaces
that
have ever come and gone, which do you think you could survive? Which pairing?
Survive or like could match?
I mean, I suppose they all...
I guess it's the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, which one would... Either way, you're going to make it out. Whether or not you kill them. Yeah?
From Scream 4.
And...
She just gives off the sissiest little vibes. And I like Scream 4. I had a bit of a reawakening of Scream 4 because I didn't like it. And then we rewatched it a little while ago and I remembered that it's actually quite good. It's actually fun. But Emma Roberts does a great job. I hate Jill so much. Like, so much. And I just feel like I could fight her. And I can't fight. Let's make that very clear right now. But I could fight her. Given the opportunity. Don't know about Charlie. But then he doesn't give off, like, the toughest vibe either.
No, I think he gave the vibe that he was listening to her.
Exactly.
I agree with you.
I think they're a pretty even pair to, like, evade.
I think Jill seems a bit too cocky.
Yes.
From what her stance on it is.
Yeah.
Their motive isn't as like... It's more about the ending is for her rather than wanting to kill the people.
Yeah.
It's more she just wants to be the survivor.
Yeah.
So I'm like...
it's all about orchestrating a scene and a story.
So it's almost like it doesn't matter who killed them, she's going to be the hero.
Yeah.
So I'm like, you could probably outsmart her a little bit. Whereas with the others, they all wanted to murder everyone. Who do you think would be the toughest to fight?
It's got to be Billy and Stu,
Yeah.
surely. Or to be fair, like... I feel like... I feel like it's Billy and Stu. Because they're just the OGs. And they're just twisted. They're both just twisted.
I think when we were saying earlier about, like, the movements of Stu, he's so wild with it that I'm like, you aren't making that out.
No.
And then I think Billy is so twisted that he knows just what to do.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I think it's a losing battle at that point.
Yeah.
I think that's why I think I really like number one, because it feels so tough.
Yeah.
When you're watching it, you're like, I don't know what you'd do there.
I feel like they all really capture that like claustrophobic feeling of like, damn, if that was you, like, what would you do?
Yeah.
Thanks. No, but for me, one is when one feels like the most, I can't describe the word, I can't think of the word I mean, like the most stuck in a cycle, like how you would feel if you were in it. I'm not saying the film is like it's stuck in a cycle. If you genuinely, everybody around you was just being killed, that to me is the most well captured in what I think that would feel like. You get what I'm saying?
I think
one does that the best. I think.
I feel like that's probably because you really focus on Sydney. Whereas I think with 5 and with this one, not that it's a criticism in any way, obviously.
Yeah.
It's an ensemble. There's the core 4.
Yeah.
So whether or not you know you're going to die, you have an inkling. You're very focused, you know a lot about these characters. You obviously know about Randy in the first one, but it's very clear that it is Sydney.
Yeah.
So she is almost the only one surviving.
Yeah.
And you are very focused on her.
Yeah.
Whereas in the most recent two, you know a lot about the other characters too.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
I think it's that claustrophobic thing of like, it's just you.
Yeah,
in
exactly.
the first one.
So like you said, I know you haven't seen 2 or 3, but so you've seen 1, 4 and 5 and then 6. How are you ranking the 4 that you've seen?
1 is absolutely number 1. I think from what I saw of other people's rankings as well, and I'm assuming you're the same, everyone seems pretty.
I don't think I've seen anybody not put 1 first, but
it's
sure.
just brilliant. I'd put this one second.
Okay.
I had such a good time. I'm then a bit back and forth on 5 and 4. I think I haven't watched 5. I've only watched it the once when we saw it when it came out.
Yeah.
I love the characters maybe a bit more in number 5. So things like that, I'm like, hey, I really enjoy that.
Yeah.
But I think I couldn't pick between the two, because then I think
5 and 6 or 5 and 4.
5 and 4, sorry.
Oh, okay. So 6 is definitely
6 is
second,
number 2.
and then you couldn't choose. Okay.
Yeah, 5 and 4, I'm
Sorry.
a bit in between, because I'm like, I really like Kirby and everyone like that. So I was really like, ooh, and I really like Sydney. Like, I think she's just really cool to watch.
Yeah, she's
so
the
I
best.
almost wouldn't want to rank that one lower, because I just enjoy it. She's just brilliant. So I think 5 and 4 are pretty even. It probably would depend on the day I'm watching. And then 2 and 3 are anyone's guess.
I mean, I'm the same with you on, so I'll go favourite to least favourite, but least favourite is not actually least favourite, it's just on the ranking. So I've got Scream 1 first, and then I've got Scream 2, and then Scream 6. So that's like 1, 2, 3, like in placing. But I could swap 2 and 6. I don't know what it is about 2. I love it. I feel like, I don't want to stand there and be like, oh, I feel like people don't really like it, because I don't really know. But I feel like I never see it that high on people's rankings. I could be wrong. But there's something about 2 that I really like. And it is also that it's older as well. That it just has that nice older vibe.
Right.
But so I've done, so Scream 1, Scream 2, and then Scream 6 as my top 3. And then I've got Scream 5, and then Scream 4, and then Scream 3. And I feel like Scream 4 and 3 are pretty set. I do really like 3, like I said that earlier, but 4's grown on me. 4 used to be my least favourite. But it grew on me after watching it again.
Nice, I like that.
You grow, you change.
The fact that you've got 2 so high, I'm like, hey,
2's good.
I'm gonna like it, I think.
2's good fun. 2 is really good fun. But as I say, I could probably swap it with 6 depending on the day. Like second and third place being 2 and 6, I could probably swap, depending. But they're just all solid films. They are really solid.
That's a good way to put it then. Yeah, you've really looked. Final question, just to round us out. Bring us home.
Hit me.
What are you rating it out of 5?
I'm going to give it a 4.
Why is
I'm going to give it a 4 because I kind of do want to give it higher. I don't know, maybe it is a 4.5. So I should say I've not actually done my letterbox yet, but we're deciding. But I'm teetering between a 4 and a 4.5.
Yeah.
There, realistically, wasn't really anything that I would change about it. So why wouldn't I give it a 4.5? That's like my justification. I'm like, well, without just sitting here and going, oh my God, I just loved it. That's my thing. I'm like, there's not really anything I would have changed. And I like the characters. I like the pacing. I like how it all came together. And I like that it's left the door open for another one. That's not what you should be basing your rating on off of, sorry, I guess. But it's left the door open for another one without it being like a dun dun dun, what's gonna happen? Like, it was just, yeah, it was its own self-contained story, but it also has given you a lovely core 4 to work with if they move forward.
That's a good point though, because I think where it is now part of a franchise, they can, and yeah, it's left on a very neutral note that if they did turn around and go, actually, we're never making another one.
Yeah.
Brilliant ending.
You'd be like, okay.
But yeah, if they announce a Scream 7, I'm not gonna go, sounds a bit redundant.
Yes, so there's more to do.
As part of a franchise, I think that's a very positive way to leave a movie.
Yeah, I agree.
It only adds to the rating.
I need a little bit more Stu in my life, not going to lie, guys. We need to bring Stu back, right? I've been waiting to say it this whole time because I didn't want to make the body of the podcast about Stu when he wasn't in it. But when Mindy said, she was sat with Kirby and they were talking about horror movies, and she said, if you even think Stu is dead, well, let me tell you, honeys, because that... for like 10 minutes was in my head as like, oh my God, that's setting him up. Yeah. Because let me tell you my one thing.
Okay.
When they had the board up of all the previous killers,
yeah,
I totally appreciate that was totally relevant to what we were doing. But also, it really felt like in a film, and I'll give you an example after I explain what I mean.
Okay.
It felt like in a film where they subtly, but not so subtly, remind you of this character that you're going to need to know about later down the line. And so I was like, Stu's back, guys. Like, he's actually back. And the example that I'm going to give you is in Ant-Man, the new Ant-Man, in Ant-Man and the Wasp. I don't think this is a spoiler if you've not seen it, but I feel like it's been out for a while now. That MODOK is obviously the guy who was Yellow Jacket. But so at the beginning of the film, she's like, Dad, I had a man in a yellow suit break into my room when I was a kid. Blah, blah, blah. So they had no reason to say that, but they need you to remember that this man existed for when they show you him in 20 minutes' time.
And then they gave you the flashback so you could visibly see him.
And they gave you the flashback. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. The flashback was more clear. But so that's what, to me, it felt like very slightly. And I was like, hang on a second. Are we about to get... Wait.
This is the thing, and whether or not it's because I was very in my mind going into it, like, maybe he's in it. There were a lot of moments where I was like, Are you setting me up? Yeah, are you encouraging me to think that, or am I thinking it too hard because I've put myself here?
I know.
There were a few bits that I had it stuck in my mind, but I don't know if the film egged me on or not. I can't remember. I can't decide if they wanted. I don't know if they wanted me to think that or not.
I don't think they did. I think it was just some fun little things back for the people who care, i.e. me.
Purely them saying about whether or not he died. That was so specific that I don't know what they would have said that for.
I think it's laying groundwork for the future. I think they've definitely considered it.
Well, because I think as well they said that. Here's something I've just thought of. They said that. Obviously, he died because the TV was pushed on him. They then pushed the TV on the boy at the end, who died the same way.
Yeah.
Is that any kind of relevance to
Don't
be like,
know.
did he die from that? Did this guy die from that? Was there a relevancy that I don't think there was?
Maybe that's Stu's cousin and Richie actually was Stu's godson.
Time to do a big family tree on screen.
Let's put, guys.
Oh, at the moment it would be quite short because
Yeah,
there's
not
no
many people.
connection there.
Also, no, I'm not sure. That was I don't even think that related to anything you asked me. I just wanted to talk about Matthew Lillard.
I also wanted to as well.
We had a great time in Scream, guys. And we hope you had a great time listening to us talk about how we had a great time watching Scream 6. Did you have a good time?
I had a really, really good time.
I had a better time.
All right.
Okay? So, have that.
I'm excited to watch it again at some point.
Yeah.
I think that's a good way to leave the film, if you be like, I want to watch that again.
I did think that during it. I agree. I was thinking a few times this will be fun to revisit soon. I could rewatch it. That's a really good point. Maybe that might impact my Letterboxd rating, everybody. I feel like I could watch that again right now. Is there anything you'd like to say before we go?
Very glad that Mason Gooding's potentially back in another one. Very glad that Gale
Potentially?
Well, no, if they make another one, I mean. Like, he's
sorry.
available for another one. I'm glad that they set that.
I was like, you made me nervous. Were they trying to imply that he might not make it?
No. These guys are ready for another one.
Yeah.
Because I loved them all a lot. That's my final thing of that. If they make another one, I'm very excited. I'm excited for who's going to be in it.
Well, I mean, everybody.
Yeah.
Everyone will be back. That kind of actually is, the more I think about it, I'm like, they didn't kill anyone of importance.
The kill count was kind of low.
But I'm not necessarily sad about it, because I kind of,
I didn't want anyone to die.
But also, the stakes weren't that high.
Yeah, that's a good point. But don't think about that.
Do you know what? Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. It's in the past. It wasn't in the main part of the podcast, so it doesn't count.
No.
If you want to let us know what you thought of Scream, if you want to tell us that you also want Matthew Lillard to come back for Scream 7, if Scream 7 even happens, you can find us over on Twitter at The Good Movie Pod.
Yeah.
And that's all. That's all I have to say on that one.
That's all from us, baby.
#StewLives.